Here. And Mark Houston's here. Item number 2 is the Bucksport Child Care Center.
Yes, we have representatives here from the Child Care Center and our Economic Development Director, Community and Economic Development Director, Mr. Rotella, has also been assisting and working with them to bring their requests to the... Rich, did you want to give a little 5-second something overview of what this whole discussion is about?
Yes, so this is to restart communication that had started back in the...
Richard, could you please stand up to the front? Well, I can't see you there.
Oh! Short joke, I like it.
What did he say?
Short joke.
No, come on. I think another
We're on TV too, I'm sorry. So we'll start over. So this is to reopen up talks that happened back in the early 2010s. The Child Care Center is located on Miles Lane, as you all know, and when Roger Raymond was the town manager, there were talks about a potential land swap due to the fact that the building was aging and they needed more area. So the plan to pay for that was going to come out of TIF from the paper mill. The TIF was reworked, and then once Roger stepped away, the mill closed down, everything just stopped. Now we've had a pandemic, the building's gotten older, we went through some stuff with the DEP due to drinking water issues there. The board has approved for so many different fixes to that building. The building has a 1983 building from a university in Connecticut that was brought up to Miles Lane, and there's not enough room. It's beyond repair any longer, and they really can't build in the existing footprint because they need to get bigger. Currently, they do not house infants. Infants is determined as 0 to 18 months. They have toddler, which is 18 months, and they help with after-school care. The plans that they had drafted back in the 2010 era was with WBRC. The building was going to be the same dimensions, but with the lack of child care in the 4 towns that represent RSU 25, we need more. They're the only folks in Bucksport. In Orland, you've got 2. You have on the Lower Falls Road, Munchkin Land, and then you have Home. There's 1 in Verona Island, Toy Box Daycare, and there's none in Prospect. From all the research I've done, everyone's closed up shop or recently passed away. So it's my hopes that we can restart up the conversations. Joanne Duray, who is the executive director, is here with us, and Joel Schunock, who's on the board of directors, is here as well. They've done a great job of filling me in, and they have assured me it's not due to staffing shortage. It really is the building, and then we need to work with financing. And how it all came up is at one of our meetings we were talking about all these new things that the town needed, and there was USDA funding, so I reached out to the USDA to figure out how can we get in on the action. If Old Orchard Beach can get a fire truck, we should be able to get money for a child care center, and the way that works out, we don't qualify. We make too much money. They use census data, but not through the Census Bureau. It's through ACS, which knocks out the metropolitan areas, your Bangors, your Portlands, Lewiston, and Auburns, and then they compare you off of that data based off of 2005 to 2009. And even when you pull Bucksport, Orland, Verona, and Prospect together, we're still at the higher end. So Sue and I met with the new representative from Angus King's office, expressed our concerns about that. The USDA will be going by census data of 2022, but then that also gives you numbers from 2015 to 2019 in October, but that doesn't help us now. That money won't even be available at that point. So we've tried on the federal level. Governor Mills has helped out. The state of Maine's helped out, as you probably heard, in Farmington with a project, so we've reached out to Augusta as well. So we're trying not to lose out on any areas to find money to fund this project, but we really need land. And keeping it on Miles Lane, I feel, is extremely important.
So is the goal, Rich, they'd be looking for a land swap contingent on obtaining funding?
I think that's what we'd want to say. I think if they can have the land, whether it be a swap or whether a donation via the town, however you want to say it, you could utilize the value of that land if a loan has to be the way that they have to go, because they do qualify for the USDA loan, but you could utilize that as collateral towards your 85% loan value to help you close on a commercial loan if that be the way they need to go. So finances and all that, I haven't even dug into that with them. We're really trying to nail down what can we do about land. Do we want to do a land swap? Do we want to consider just bring this up to you guys, because I'm not sure any one of you were on the council when this was brought up back in 2010, 2011.
The land that we looked at, we met prior to sort of talk about, that was initially identified back in 2010, was up sort of behind where the pump station is, up on Miles Lane, but it was in an odd-shaped area, sort of triangular, kind of, and it was sized for the type of building, the size of building which was being proposed, which isn't a sufficient size for. So, sort of reorienting, there's an area about 4 acres in size that would be sufficient for a child care center of the size needed, along with playground and parking, that would allow it to meet the needs and have some space for growth if that happened. Putting it on the smaller triangular piece doesn't make a lot of sense, because we'd be back here talking about it in 5 years because of a need to make it bigger.
But
And so that's where it was. But the idea of whether you swap it for the building they're in, which gives us another piece of land that I'm not sure we need for anything, but there was a whole convoluted, well, the superintendent could go locate on that location, and we could have the school therein and do another Gardner Commons type redevelopment of that for housing. I mean, that's like the domino effect. But the question of whether you swap or the town donates that 4-acre piece to what has clearly been identified as a high priority need for the community if we're to not just grow but survive. I mean, we had our school superintendent in front of us last year who talked about childcare being, and he still is, being one of the major concerns. These lights are driving me crazy. One, I think I'm having hallucinations here, but being a big, but Joanne's here to answer questions or discuss it, but from the discussions Rich and I have had, certainly, and Superintendent Boothby, it's been about how we can best address this need that has been so strongly identified for decades in terms of, and what has only worsened due to the pandemic and the shutdown of private facilities that are not reopening. So,
Where does the 4 acres sit in relation to what was originally proposed?
It's right here.
It's just making that
it squares it out.
It squares it out more like a
Okay, so
rectangle.
it's the same place, just a bigger.
Same-
Yeah,
footprint.
so the power line's to your right, the middle schools and the trails are to your left, and you're behind the pump station.
Okay.
So it's just that whole piece, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
It squares, before it was an odd shape. It kind of went in and went like this. And
More like a rhombus. Now it's more
Yeah.
like a rectangle.
No surveyor would want that.
wow, that's a big word.
That is the shape, right?
Yeah, you got it.
And could we, what they're looking for from us is just a commitment one way or the other? Or a recommendation of a commitment one way or another?
if they don't have a place to put one, they can't do it. And the cost of acquisition for them would negate their ability to, a donated amount of land with a value provides them with a match for grants with a match for, down payment
Sure.
kind of funding if necessary. And truthfully, that 4 acres isn't anything that we have our eyes on. That's really part of the school complex. And the big reason that the child care center is best there is that they're very integrated in the programming, their after-school use of school facilities and all those kind of things. It's really easy to get children safely from point A to point B without putting them someplace else.
The other thing with this is talking about back in 2010, that was my last year on the school committee, and I remember speaking with the superintendent at that time, and the conversation being, it's a good thing you have a number of private child care providers in this area, because if you didn't, because they had already outgrown that facility 12 years ago now. Well, to Rich's point, we don't have those private child care. So to me, it's, from a big picture perspective, this seems to be something, regardless of land swap or donation, because I can think of a number of ways that where they're presently could be used by either the town or the school department, or could be used. This seems to be something that we should be a priority.
I would agree. Are we giving a recommendation on swap or not, or just a recommendation on
Well,
land?
I think it deserves a discussion, whether or not you're going to talk about swapping something.
If you like, I think I can share some numbers with you on waiting lists and.
Oh, I have no doubt that, the demand is there. And that's not even,
Maybe for the public's benefit.
I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah.
So for waiting lists right now, so we have around 85 kids enrolled between the center, which is the 18 months to 5 years, and school age, which is school age up to 13 years old. There is a waiting list of, just updated, 22 children. And some of that is for the summer, which I anticipate being able to accommodate some of them. This week, it's only, Thursday, I've had 3 parents begging me for daycare. And my heart breaks because I'm like, I can't do anything. I cannot get you guys in here. And just, I know of 6 parents at my center right now with infants. That's another thing this town desperately needs, is the infant care. And we just can't do it in the building we're in.
I think the waiting list is probably more than that, because I know several people that haven't even bothered to go.
Yes, I think
Once
some
they
people are
hear,
not even
yeah.
calling us because they know.
They know.
Yeah, so these are all the really desperate people that are calling me. So,
That's a good point. We could have between the people, the children that are going there and the children that are either officially on the waiting list or could be on a waiting list, we could be talking 150 kids.
Easily.
yeah.
Especially if you incorporate the 0 to 18 month
Yeah,
population, because right now there's no place for them.
yeah.
I'm just wondering, can ARPA funds be used for any help with that?
Yes. I mean, that's a need that's been exacerbated by COVID, in that we've seen the shutdown of a number of,
If we were looking for helping them with something besides land, I mean,
I don't have a cost estimate for what.
have you guys costed out anything, or?
No, I actually, I'm meeting with the architect on Tuesday next week. So I know that's one big piece is, and I've talked to a couple of grant writers as well. Do I need 500,000? Do we need,
Yeah.
I have no idea. So
It's more than 500.
Well, yeah, but I have no idea. So until I speak with him, we're going with Mr. Gordon here in town, who's on board with all of this. Hopefully quickly we'll have some exact numbers.
Sorry.
So,
I mean, the only remaining piece is, are we looking at a swap?
That's
I would say-
my question is there a disadvantage to the swap? Because again, as I said a minute ago, I can see where they are presently being used either by the town or the school department. I easily could be wrong, though. Are there disadvantages to a swap versus a donation, or?
Well, the issue is if you want to stay up in Miles Lane, there's not a whole lot of other places to go up there, is there? I mean, basically where they're at up to the corner is pretty much it.
Unless you take away fields or trails.
Yeah.
Well, the thing with the swap, at least if we swap, we control going forward.
Mhm.
And it could be the RSU, but at least we're holding some decision on that.
Yeah.
That's really part of the school campus, or,
Sure,
it's
yeah.
all there, and so what you don't want
It's an unknown going.
an
Right.
unknown.
And part of it is, and I think
Traffic.
they've expressed that, I think we all probably can realize that we're 12 years beyond where it should have been looked at anyway. But
Right.
if we take that, we're taking the building too, and then we've got to do something with that, which is going to incur a cost also, because I don't think that building is usable for us for a thing. I know the superintendent, when they were talking about it, if I remember right, Paul, that
Yep.
they really weren't going to be able to use the building even in the conditions. There were some major upgrades.
That seems to be what I remember 10 years ago. Now, if something's changed, but I don't know.
The
Yeah.
superintendent had mentioned that they're the last building that's not part of the campus. The superintendent's office is down on, and that, whether that location was used, whether that building or something else was there.
I'm just
Is it-
concerned that building itself is going to be a cost, whoever takes it.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I don't know how much of that we want to make sure that we don't want to
Yeah, that's a
incur
good
on
point.
top of that.
Sure. Is Jim willing to make a commitment to move the superintendent, or not at this?
No.
Not at this
No. This was just a
possibility.
20,000 foot
They have
look
to
at
assess the building.
what if.
Yeah, it's a what if, but like Sue said, it'd be great to be on the campus,
I agree.
but
Whose garage is that? Is that ours or is that the school's?
the
Across
one at the corner.
Yeah,
It's the school.
it is the school's?
Yeah. It houses all the equipment that Tim's folks
Right.
have.
That's
so-
what I was wondering, yeah, okay.
That even if I guess what would be critical is that lot stay in the hands of someone, whether the building's demolished or whatever when they move, or if it doesn't have any redeemable value, but that it not go out of the hands of the district or the town, only
Yep.
because
Yep.
that campus needs to stay intact.
I have to agree with that, especially with the traffic issues you already have up there. Whether during, in the mornings, afternoons, around games, with the investment with the lights at the soccer field, et cetera. Anything that could go in there that would take the traffic piece out of our hands even more, to me, is concerning.
So,
I'm sorry, I think what we'd want to do is obviously survey out the land, so we would need authorization to survey out
That 4 acre
that far.
piece.
And probably maybe have the engineer, maybe have Mandy look at it or something, or even the survey, I guess, could do that for us to make sure wetland delineation and all that stuff. So, to the best of my knowledge, it's not. There's no wetlands over there, but I'm not a
yeah, it
scientist.
makes sense to look into it.
Yeah.
We're going to have to survey out anyway.
But what are we trying to accomplish here? Because are we putting the cart before the horse? Because we don't even know what the child care center is going to do, and we go and spend again some money to do these things, and then unfortunately, the determination is made that it's going to cost 2.5, and now is that the right place for that, or yes, everybody agrees it's up there, but do we have to look at someplace else where it's a little more feasible? And I think I would put it on you guys to you're meeting with an architect and you're doing all those things. I think before we go too far, I think we ought to have some more concrete plans on what exactly is going to happen up there. I don't think anybody here, and I won't speak for everybody, but from what I'm hearing, I don't think anybody here is against looking at something. I think it's just a matter of what that something is. Does that make sense?
It does, absolutely.
And I don't know if that was, and I don't know if that was what the charge of what coming before the committee was the thought of, or was it kind of a blank slate and figured it out?
Well, it is, because it was talked before, and this is a whole new council, town manager, office staff.
Sure.
So Sue, myself, Caitlin, Luke, we met with Joanne. That was the second time. The first time I met with Joanne and the board. So we really tried to piece out. I really wanted to eliminate the fact, is it a worker crunch? And I believe in my heart of hearts that it's not.
Yeah.
It's been on our comprehensive plan since at least 1993. I have records of all those, 93, 2003, 2017. Number one, every time, childcare.
Right.
And losing the independent, the private folks who've done it has really amplified it. And then going back through records and having conversations with Katie Hodgins, who was in the position before, having conversations with Joanne, and we converse quite often about grants and different things to try to find the money. Do you apply for the grants if you don't own the land? Do you use the current land as, well, this is what we'd do if we were here? Where's the cart? Where's the horse? What is the right way? That's where I struggle to figure out, should we have something in writing that says, if you get the grant, that can transfer over to this land, but we need to make sure that that land is buildable. You can build on that land. And I think, like you said, I think Mr. Gordon can figure that part out. And then we hire the survey to create the boundary lines.
Because that could come after.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
We don't do that till the very end.
The land that it sits on now, is it actually in the name of the child care center?
No, it's in the town.
It's in the town's name.
The current land?
Oh, no.
No, I think it's in the child care center. The child care center is the owner
Right,
of the
we got
land
it.
and the building.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any land around it that can expand the size of the lot that it's on?
It's not sure that goes far back. Home plate edges out that way, and then the trail goes right
I
behind.
don't-
I don't think so. And you're really close to the power lines as well. So right now, they're to the right of the power lines. If we move them to the left of the power lines, and I was trying to think of the distance from them to the power line when you go back. I don't.
They would have the space for
Yeah, because you get that.
playground and park.
Yeah, because it's at that weird angle too. So you've got the trail that goes behind it, and like you said, the fields, and then the road. There's not much. Yeah.
I think that was the issue back then.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's
then,
always
then
been
it
an issue.
bends.
Yeah.
And then it bends as well.
Yeah.
The road itself, excuse me,
Yeah.
bends back this way, and then there's not Jersey barrier, but the thing like if you hit into it, your
Yeah.
car won't go into a ditch, whatever that's
Yeah.
called.
Guardrail.
Guardrail, thank you. There's guardrails,
I was
but
always
what I
going
think is a
through.
little is wetland over there. I think there's wetland right there because it drops off on both sides. So just after that guardrail ends, then you have main waters pump out right there.
Yeah.
So it would definitely need dig safe, which Jay does that taking care of for us and stuff.
I think the point of this meeting is to get the committee's feedback on whether or not they would support the use of some town land, if necessary, for the location of a child care facility. That's pretty much, and it's not obligating it now, but it if the answer is positive, that allows them to move forward thinking of a location near where they are now. If the town is negative, then they have to do something else.
So we're looking for a motion to recommend usage or swap,
Or
just usage.
supporting the additional work that's being done to determine if this can happen. You know, that
Go ahead, you crafted it.
I don't know that that they need a vote. I think what they needed is
What they heard
what
before.
they're hearing
You know.
in this conversation, that
There's not going to be a roadblock right at the start. How's that?
Absolutely.
I mean,
No.
in reality, I think it's now back in your folks' corner to figure out what you want, how you're going to do it, and when you've got that, say, look, we've got X, and we need something to try to
we
finish
need a place to
this.
put it.
Yeah.
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 Right.
Yeah. And I think if you could get to that, we at least have a little bit more to go on. But and again, from what I'm hearing, I'm not hearing anybody say, "Don't go try."
And the other thing is, if Mr. Gordon is looking at design and things, if we talked about a single floor kind of
Yep.
approach, that the land that was looked at is pretty flat. We're not dealing with steep slopes, we're not dealing with it needs to be on the side of a hill, we're not, that affects design. And so I think the question of if you were going to do it, if he does it with the idea that it's going to be in that kind of a location rather than one that's on the side of a hill or got some 14 other issues, that will impact how the building can be designed and what the eventual cost is, which is why some idea of where it might go is helpful up front, right?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we don't need a motion.
I don't think we do it. I know you have one, Pat.
I've been processing it for 30 minutes. I can't.
I'll let you do the other motion if you want.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.